going to talk about the managerial merry-go-round. We had called for Kilcoo to shit or get off the pot, and they have.
You did, yeah.
They've come good. So Conor Laverty's been appointed. I'm genuinely excited about this. I think down, apart from their cool jerseys, there's like a nice something important about Down being good. Up, down. Kieran McGean, it's been a good week for Down.
Yeah. Certainly has. I would say that there probably is going to be a more memorable interview done in GAA, or a more quotable one done than the Eamon Brannigan interview, which now has been given a second installation, a second season, because as part of his interview, when he kind of slammed the current management and the current setup during the previous season, he said maybe if there was a different manager, Conor Laverty took over the under-20s and it was the first Ulster one in years. He made it pretty clear that he would be the guy that he wanted installed there, and you would think that is probably a prevailing thought throughout Kilcoo, and there will be more Kilcoo players playing for that Down team next year, and as a result Down will be a better football team.
Yeah, and like we saw what happened in in Derry. It took a couple of years for the Schlockneil and everybody else to get back together, having an impact. The split season is definitely going to help with this stuff. You can play football for Kilcoo unfettered by intercounty demands, and then you can use your good form to roll into next season. So I genuinely really hope that they're going to be good. Loads of other jobs still out there. Mickey Graham has gone back to Cavan. That came through overnight. The runners and riders for the Mayo race are much more clearer now. There are 4 remaining. The strong suspicion is that Solon's going to get the gig, but there's been a dream team assembled by Kevin McStay.
Well, you could say is Solon's team also a dream team?
It's a bit of a dream team.
It's
Aidan
O'Rourke, Eamon O'Hara and Mark Ronaldson alongside him, and there is some suggestion out there that they might be the front runners for this. It's always a pretty foolish act to predict what Mayo are going to do or what way they might act, but the Kevin McStay ticket is strong. Lee McHale obviously is on that ticket, as you would expect, but also Stephen Rochford and Donny Buckley on the ticket alongside him. That's a hard one to turn down.
I mean, that would be great. I'd love to see that. Nothing against Solon at all. He seems like a really high-end, high achiever.
An All-Ireland winner.
Great fella.
With the under-20s.
Yeah.
Or 21s.
So, is there any possibility that they could, we could run a simulation and they could both get the gig and we could just tune in from one channel to the other and go, how are you guys getting on? Oh, that's interesting. Is there any way we could do that?
Well, because of the parochial nature of Gaelic games, it would be nice to get that, because if you don't get the job, you're waiting a few years to get it, and therefore your life might change and you probably won't get it.
Well, so McStay before said, right, I've tried now loads of times, so that's it, I'm done. If he doesn't get it this time, hopefully he doesn't say that. He'll be like, I'm just going to look at Colin O'Rourke. It'll come for me, because I'd like to see what would happen.
Yeah, I presume half the reason why he would have said that in the past is because of his experience of going for the Mayo job in the past. Now something has changed. Maybe time heals all wounds, but he's ready to get hurt again. Kevin McStay. That's basically him lining up for this once again, and maybe he'll be ready to get hurt again if things don't go his way this time. And I would suggest that he felt that he deserves the job at a previous occasion. You could make a case that the Mike Solon ticket is as strong a ticket as he's ever gone up against, and if he doesn't get the job on this occasion, he might well be, listen, that's fair enough. They're an outstanding collection of football people, and better luck next time, sort of thing. But it does feel that every time himself and McHale go for the job, it is a little bit of last chance saloon. But it is interesting how the Rochford thing has changed from allegedly being one of the front runners to be a manager of this team to go into the backroom team. It's very what we don't know is we don't know what his role was with Donegal, or not what his role was, but his effectiveness in Donegal, because it's very hard to get a gauge on any of that stuff.
It is. I do wonder if part of that is that there's your natural succession plan. So 2 years of this group, and then afterwards we're ready to go. So they'll bring stability and an end to the perpetual circus and all that kind of stuff that seems to afflict Mayo football. But
we're also at a point where the backroom teams and the importance of them is not a new story at all. But have we got to the point now where backroom teams are actually more important than the manager? That they're actually the thing that you look for in terms of coaching quality. That you do have a McStay or an O'Rourke type that leads the charge, and to maybe a lesser degree like Jack O'Connor with Kerry, and it's actually just who they put around them and the people that are in the backroom team that you look for innovation and for how a team is actually going to play and how things might actually change. Because that way then you're looking at that ticket and you're like Buckley and Rochford, that they're going to bring things forward. I'd just be very, very interested to see what an Aidan O'Rourke / Eamon O'Hara Mayo team looks like. That's fascinating. That's a really interesting, unique ticket. And maybe that could be the thing that tips them over the edge in terms of getting this job, because it's something different. Maybe the Mayo County Board will be like, got to try something here, because we've been saying this for a while, but it could be, if we talk about last chance saloon for Kevin McStay and Lee McHale, it could be last chance saloon for a lot of these players as well. And
can Mayo become a team who are super defensive? Is that possible? Because the swashbuckling style, which you would say is the Mayo DNA, has brought them to within a hair's breadth of winning an All-Ireland against the greatest team of all time. And so do you stick or twist? Is the right thing to do to say, that's who we are. That's what gets the fans up on the feet. That's what makes them travel 8-hour round trip from the far recesses of the county to Dublin to scream their lungs out, to give them pride? Or do you say, we're going to cheat and dark arts our way with 15 men behind the ball to a 9-7 victory in an All-Ireland final, and we will celebrate the shit out of that for 40 years?
Like, what does that look like? Give me like a modern example. Are you talking like what Derry did this year?
Well, like you start with Donegal, right? And like you know, as Paddy Andrews always says, if there was defending to be done, we put 15 men behind the ball. Like Kerry brought in Paddy Talley, and they conceded no goals.
Yeah,
you know, like.
So is it the Kerry level we're talking about here, where it's just?
No, I don't think you can do that, because they don't have Clifford and they don't have Clifford. So
they have O'Donoghue and Conroy, and assuming that
they didn't this year, you know,
like they will next year, and like you'd think that they'll be a lot stronger in that department. I think the answer to your question is yes, they can absolutely go to a dark arts, a more dark arts approach. But I think, I'm not sure. I think that's actually kind of overstating it a little bit. I think they just maybe need a little bit more street smarts, and I think they maybe got shown up at times a little bit this year, where they kind of underperformed, even though, and I think this was a huge factor for them this year, even though they were missing a significant amount of their first choice players, especially in attack. Even allowing for that, it did feel that they got shown up at times, maybe that second half of the All-Ireland quarter-final, and there was just something more there. Even with the players they were missing, it felt like there was something more, and that could come from a tactical tweak that I guess Pádraig Joyce would have led the way on in Galway over the past few years. Like, that's a great reference point for them, a team that were kind of victims of their own naivety for a while, with brilliant footballers, all of a sudden got street smart.
Well, how did they do that?
By bringing in innovation into the backroom team. And maybe that is a thing that will tip the Solon ticket over the edge here, where they look at O'Rourke and O'Hara and say, there's something different there. There's something different that we haven't tried before. And that could be the thing, like that gets them the job. I would say it's between those two anyway. Obviously, Ray Dempsey and his backroom team is going to be a hell of he's a really well respected, and they're going to go in with a right shout as well. Declan Shaw, obviously the other contender there, who did an interview with the Mayo News last week or the week before as well. So there's 4 clear management tickets going head to head in Mayo, but nobody's acting like Kilkenny in the hurling, where they just got the job done quickly.
Straight away. I mean, they know what they're doing. They have a plan. They're like, yeah, that's right. Off you go. Now, tell us your backroom team later. Not for them, the big... so we've 2 minutes left here. Liam Kearns, the Irish Independent, are reporting Colm Keys and Michael Verney's name are on the byline there, so you would expect that they know exactly what they're talking about. He's expected to take over from John Maughan. Apparently Tomás O'Shea is now unavailable for that job. Yeah,
change in work commitments. Apparently is one of the reasons for that, supposedly. Obviously the Donegal situation is still vacant at the moment, and Monaghan has become one of the more fascinating stories as well. Like, Jason Sherlock had been associated with that and is still associated with it. There's just been no details of a backroom team just yet. So certainly from what I can see, Sean Moran in the Irish Times though was reporting that Mark Coonahan is now the front runner for that. So for the Monaghan job, right. Sorry, that he managed the minors to Ulster title in 2019. His backroom team is interesting. Paul McIver, Colm Nally could go in with him, and Colin Malone. Colm Nally, obviously the coach that was in with Andy McEntee with Meath, and we've had him in here in studio quite a few times as well.
Really smart fella.
Yeah. Obviously you mentioned Liam Kearns to Offaly there, and then the other two things is just they're waiting for Dessie Farrell and Pádraig Joyce to put pen to paper in a figurative sense, of course.
Right.
Dessie Farrell, you'd imagine Pádraig Joyce will come back for another crack with Galway next season, given how close they came this year. Dessie Farrell, I think, just personal opinion, I think the ball is in Dessie Farrell's court on this. Like, I think he's got an All-Ireland medal, and it's up to him.